In the spring of 2018, a researcher named Joy Buolamwini stood in front of a camera in her MIT lab. She spent 2 years testing commercial facial recognition software, but when she pointed the lens at her own face, the machine saw nothing at all. In her research paper, she named this the coded gaze. The data showed that these systems identified white men with near-perfect accuracy, but when asked to recognize darker-skinned women, their reliability collapsed entirely. Bias was built directly into the eyes of the machine. Within 12 months of her work being published, the shockwaves hit the largest companies on Earth. IBM halted its facial recognition program. Microsoft revised its policies. Amazon paused sales to law enforcement. 3 tech monopolies pulled back from a billion-dollar product line because one Black woman with a laptop and a research paper refused to look away. She forced a global industry to acknowledge the bias woven directly into its digital foundation. If you look at the standard timeline of artificial intelligence, it usually begins in a very small set of rooms. It starts at a 1956 conference at Dartmouth College, where a few computer scientists coined the phrase, then moves through famous garages in California, ending with names like Bill Gates and Sam Altman. Those rooms existed, and those names are real, but that version of history is incomplete because it was written exclusively by the people who were already standing inside the rooms of power. To find the actual mathematical foundation of computing, we have to step outside that timeline. We have to open a different set of doors, ones that lead to ancient classrooms, hidden laboratories, and the uncredited patents running our devices today. We have to start where the math itself starts. The true beginning of numerical reasoning doesn't trace back to ancient Greece or the Roman Empire. It begins in Central and Southern Africa, tens of thousands of years earlier. Mathematicians who studied the Ishango and Lobombo bones identified precise records of arithmetic, doubling, halving, and prime numbers. Someone in Africa sat down with intention and counted in a system another human being could read back 40,000 years ago. Walk forward to ancient Egypt. You cannot build the Great Pyramid at Giza, aligning its base across 13 acres, with an error of less than 1/10 of a degree, with guesswork. You do it with advanced computation and a working theory of mathematics. We have the physical proof of that system. The Rhind mathematical papyrus, dating to roughly 1650 before the Christian era, documents 84 distinct problems in arithmetic, algebra, and geometry. These documents provide a step-by-step record of an advanced working theory applied to complex geometric problems. In the 9th century, a Persian scholar named Al-Khwarizmi synthesized these traditions into the algorithm. While he is credited with the term, his work was built directly on the mathematical lineage he inherited from Egyptian priesthoods who had been refining these calculations for 3 millennia before he was born. By tracing the algorithm from modern code back through Baghdad to the temples of Memphis, the record becomes clear. The very framework of computational logic was established in Africa long before the first modern computer was built. That intellectual lineage never broke. In 1969, Clarence Ellis became the first African American to earn a doctorate in computer science. He went to work at Xerox PARC, the legendary lab that built the foundation of the modern personal computer. While there, Ellis co-developed a highly technical piece of computer science called operational transformation. It is the exact algorithm that allows multiple people to edit the same cloud document at the exact same time without the file falling apart. If you use Google Docs or Microsoft Office Online, you are relying on his code. A decade later, a young Black engineer named Mark Dean joined IBM. He was part of the team that built the IBM PC, the machine that defined what it meant to own a computer in the 20th century. Dean holds 3 of its original 9 patents. He led the development of the industry-standard architecture bus, the technology that let you plug a printer or disk drive into a PC and actually have it work. By 1999, he led the team that broke the gigahertz barrier, building the fastest processor chip ever produced. In entertainment, Jerry Lawson worked at Fairchild Semiconductor in the late 1970s and invented the cartridge-based video game console. Every cartridge loading system in history, from the Atari to the Nintendo Entertainment System, descends directly from his work. And at NASA, mathematicians like Katherine Johnson provided the essential manual calculations. She plotted the precise trajectories that clicked John Glenn into orbit and brought Apollo 11 back from the moon. From PC architecture and gaming consoles to the collaborative software and the math that conquered space, the digital age relies heavily on an infrastructure built by Black engineers, whose names are missing from the standard curriculum. This brings us to the modern era of artificial intelligence. The mainstream tech industry heavily promotes a story centered entirely on a handful of Silicon Valley founders, but the people actually securing and auditing these massive systems tell a different story. In 2020, Ethiopian-American researcher Timnit Gebru, co-leading Google's ethical AI team, co-authored a paper called On the Dangers of Stochastic Parrots. It meticulously laid out the environmental and societal risks of the massive language models tech companies were racing to deploy. Google fired her. That decision made global headlines, triggered multiple resignations, and cracked open an industry-wide conversation about who is actually allowed to question the rapid, unchecked deployment of artificial intelligence. She isn't alone. Years earlier, Harvard professor LaTanya Sweeney proved that Google's own advertising algorithms were displaying racial bias, serving up ads suggesting arrest records significantly more often for Black-sounding names than white ones. These researchers are not a footnote. They form the essential spine of modern AI accountability. They are the ones forcing a massive trillion-dollar industry to confront the bias hidden inside its own architecture. The reason these names are so often missing from the textbooks and documentaries is deliberate. Credit flows exactly where the cameras already point. The tech industry continually makes decisions about who gets into the rooms, whose work gets cited, and who gets attached to the next generation of foundational papers. Historical erasure is an active, ongoing process. Foundational papers written by today's Black AI experts are already being absorbed into the background of future tech monopolies, threatening to become wallpaper in someone else's house. So we have to take control of the record. We learn the names of the engineers and mathematicians who came before us. We hire each other. We publish in our own journals. We fund our own labs. And we actively protect the next generation of researchers. From the first intentional notch carved into an ancient bone to the algorithms regulating modern society, the math is ours. The papers forcing the industry to confront itself are ours. Artificial intelligence has always been built on a continuous, unbroken Black intellectual lineage. We just have to tell the story that way.